First up, we are starting the bulletin with an exclusive piece of information. Well, it's a free run to K-gang in Australia. Khalistani supporters have now gathered outside the Indian consulate in Melbourne today as a part of their 8 July protest of the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada. Remember, Khalistani groups had planned protest against the death of Canada-based Khalistan Tiger Force Chief Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Now, K-gang faced Indians while protesting in Toronto. Indians raised Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata Ki Jai slogans. Now, in context to the KTF chief Hardeep Singh Nijjar, he was one of the most wanted terrorists in India who carried a cash reward of rupees 10 lakh on his head. Now, Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot dead outside a Gurdwara in the northern region of the country. Now, he was also a resident of Bharsinghpur village in Punjab's Jalandhar, and he was found dead inside a car with bullet wounds in the parking lot of Guru Nanak Singh Gurudwara. And these are the preliminary information and reports that we are getting from the ground, where now protesters have reached the Indian consulate to protest outside the Indian consulate in Melbourne as a part of their 8 July protest of the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada. Remember, Khalistani groups had planned protest against the death of Canada-based KTF chief. Now, K-gang was also further faced by Indians who came down to roads and gathered. Now, the Indians raised Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata Ki Jai slogans. Now, quoting the preliminary information, the officials said that Nijjar was shot dead by 2 unidentified assailants and he died on the spot. Now, he was also a resident of Bharsinghpur village in Punjab's Jalandhar, and he was found dead inside a car with bullet wounds in the parking lot of Guru Nanak Singh Gurudwara Sahib. Now, it's very interesting to note here that the K chief Hardeep Singh Nijjar was also the head of this Gurudwara outside where he was found dead. And according to the initial reports that we are getting from the ground, he was shot dead at around 8:27 p.m. on Sunday. Now the officials also said that he was shot dead by 2 unidentified assailants and he died on the spot. There's further investigation going on. As you can see on the screen, there are visuals of Khalistani protesters coming on ground and protesting in Canada and Melbourne. Now, in this context, for my viewers, I would like to repeat the information to them. It's a free run to the K-gang in Australia. Now, Khalistani supporters have gathered outside the Indian consulate now in Melbourne today as a part of their 8 July protest of the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada. Remember, Khalistani groups had planned protest against the death of Canada-based Khalistani Tiger Force Chief Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Now, the K-gang was also faced by Indians who also gathered in favor of the protest and raised slogans like Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata Ki Jai slogans. Now, Jitharth Jai Bhardwaj, the editor of Australia Today, is joining us live on the broadcast from Melbourne on the Khalistan issue. A very good morning, Jitharth, and thank you so much for joining us on CNN News 18.
Now, good morning, Koina. Good to be with you.
Well, Mr. Bhardwaj, all of these protests comes in days after India summoned Canadian envoy over Khalistani posters that posed a direct threat to Indian diplomats. Now, how do we overview this situation and what really prompted these protests?
See, this is an alarming situation in terms of safety and security of Indian diplomats, be it in Canada, UK, USA, or Australia, or in other European countries like Italy or Greece. These Khalistan supporters have been issuing this kind of memorandum. Gurpat Bhawan Singh Panu, the Sikh for Justice chief, has been reportedly issuing videos of asking his followers to harm people who support India, or are asking these Khalistani supporters questions that why they are doing what they are doing. In the present context, after Khanda's death in UK and Nijjar's killing in Canada, despite that there is sufficient evidence and directives that Nijjar was killed just because of Malik Ripu Daman Singh Malik's killing 1 year back. Two fractions of Khalistan are at war there in Canada. Despite this fact in public view, these Khalistan supporters are trying to drive their movement to direct this killing towards Indian government. And that's the ploy they have been doing for last almost 20-25 years. Here in Australia, there were some odd 140, 150 people. They belong to one radical Gurdwara here in Melbourne, and they approached Indian consulate yesterday. I was there reporting from their live. They tried to even bully, harass, and physically harm me at that spot. There are videos where they were elbowing, their Khalistan supporters were elbowing and trying to make me fall down on the ground. However, these tactics are only of bullying. When we ask them questions, why they are doing protests, what is the meaning, why they are issuing threat to kill Indian diplomats, they had no answers. So it's kind of robotic on their parts, that they are being commanded by their supremacist leaders in Canada or UK or maybe in Europe, and they work accordingly. When we question why they work accordingly, so it's the money game. You understand that all these countries are migration prone, so they lure people to sponsor them. They lure international students to come pay their fees. That's how they get whatever small support they had. You can understand that Australia and Victoria has almost 97,000 Sikh community members. Only 140 people were there. That is the kind of support they have. So the Sikh community shuns them. A larger Indian Australian community shuns them, but they want to be very loud with their arms and poles, and they are violent. Of course, they are violent, and there is a danger towards Indian consulate members and Indian High Commission members, be it in Australia or in Canada or UK. Kaina?
All right, Mr. Bhardwaj, help us understand that is there a free run being given to the Khalistani backers or supporters in Australia?
I wouldn't call it free run now. It was a free run a few months back when Australian authorities, be it political or police and administrative authority, they didn't actually understand what Khalistan is. They just thought it's an ethnic protest. There are different country people living in Australia. They all keep on protesting against their government, and it is normal feature of Australian life. Where my office is at Federation Square, there are a number of protests happen against Iranian, even US or UK government, even French government, even Spanish government. There are different protests happening, and that's what Australian authorities thought, that it is a normal protest against certain foreign government. However, now they have understood that the sinister motives and violent features of Khalistan movement, and I think Australian security agencies are now crippling to that point that they will be doing a crackdown on them. Australian authorities are most of the time very understanding. However, when the things go beyond the point, they can really crack the whip. So the fillers, what we are getting is that at least security agencies are ready to act if there is any further violence here in Australia. Koina?
Well, Mr. Bhardwaj, we have seen in the past that the display of threatening posters have escalated quite a lot of tension in a lot of countries around the globe. But help us understand, what will the Australian government be taking steps in order to counter these protests?
See, protest is a part and parcel of any democratic country, as in India. India allows protests happening for months and months, even in certain cases for almost a year. So, stopping a protest should not be and is not a question for any democratic country, including India and Australia. What happens after that? However, there is no free run for protest. There is no free run for democratic process. If these protests turn into a violent mob, then there will be a crackdown. And crackdown will be severe. That's what we are told by at least Australian authorities. When I had a talk last month after Nijjar's killing with the Canadian authorities, they have a very different thought about it, and probably there is a political patronage there in Canada, which is not in Australia. Australia doesn't need, as of now at least, their political votes. However, these Khalistan groups are trying to infiltrate between political process. They are trying to help and support political leaders, be it of council, state or federal. They are trying to give them volunteers, and of course the money power is also there. That the donations or the political donations are one of the key factors where Australian authorities have to be very wary of these Khalistani groups. Koina?
Okay, well, Mr. Bhardwaj, according to the preliminary reports, it was a flop rally. Now, if you look at the numbers, only a handful of protesters turned up at the embassy to stage the protest. Now, what is the Australian government trying to do for this?
See, 100 people, 150 people coming and standing and shouting and walking out after like 50 odd minutes. Australian government made sure that the safety and security of Indian diplomats in Melbourne is ensured. There were at least, if not the equal number, there were 60 odd police officials from Australian Federal Police and Victoria Police. There were 7 horse-ridden police officers to avoid any incident. There were a number of camera deployed by Victoria Police this time to catch if anything happens there. So I think it's very sensible of police authorities to have that kind of precautions. And beyond that, Khalistan groups should be tackled the way Australia tackled the ISIS menace. The Islamic State menace was tackled 3-4 years back by Australia very tactfully. I think there should be de-radicalization process among the Khalistan groups, and that's what the forward-looking way is in Australia. Koina?
Well, okay, Mr. Bhardwaj, help us understand, like, it's been quite a few weeks that we've been seeing these kind of clashes and protests happening in and around the globe. Now, is Anthony Albanese's government being soft on these Khalistani separatists, or the kind of extremism that is being seen on the ground? Inaction was seen as being soft initially. If you talk about month of January, month of February, I would like to say that we were really upset the way Australian government, be it of Victoria State or New South Wales State or Queensland State, reacted to Khalistan goons and their violent activities. However,
our live coverage which we are doing on Australia today, once everyone is positioned where they want to position, probably we will come back and do understand and talk to these people. What do they want? Why they are here? If that is how you want me to do, I can ask few of the people why they are here and what are they protesting for. Pallavi?
Is there an identifiable leader this time of this protest?
I'm not quite sure, but I can ask few people what they are protesting and why they are protesting.
One of the things that we can clearly see is that there are small children being brought to this protest. I can see one with a sword here.
Very disturbing.
Right, yeah. And like, I won't trust my 12-year-old with a knife at home, and it's a big sword. So
let me give it a go. So can we talk? So nobody wants to talk.
Well, Jatharth, now both the countries' diplomats are actively trying to deal with this kind of a situation. But help me understand, do these protests and extremism are likely to affect the diplomatic relations between both the countries?
As of now, it's very unlikely that these incidents will have any effect other than bringing Australian and Indian security collaboration fast forward. I think I'm seeing much more being shared between India and Australia than what it was almost a year back. And these Khalistan supporters will be having a hard time because India will be supplying all the details and the information about how the money churns, how the movement of people. In Australia, there is a very strong law against modern slavery, and these Khalistan groups are involved in number of criminal organizations who are involved in the people's movement, and that comes under this provision. So I think Khalistanis will be in big trouble after this information sharing agreement between India and Australia is in full play.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhardwaj, for joining us on the broadcast and sharing all the latest inputs. Now we're cutting across to some political reactions on this.
Canada is a peaceful country and we want it to remain peaceful, and we are trying to tell the government of Canada, take cognizance of this, that this is not freedom of expression. This is for sure not a freedom of expression. When you tell somebody that you are killing somebody or you are displaying a killing act like the one which happened in Brampton last week, you are not basically showing the freedom of expression, but you are promoting terrorism and separatism.
हम यहाँ पर टोरंटो में CGI के सामने खड़े हैं और ये खालिस्तानियों को फेस करने के लिए यहाँ पर we are trying to stop all this Khalistan's nonsense here, and we are here for the solidarity of Canada and India all together. They are giving wrong information, saying they want to kill our diplomats, which is illegal, and we are totally against that.